Hi there guys, Tom Quayle here for Sound Effects Premiere in Ormskirk, and I'm back again doing another demo for a great pedal. I love these pedals. This is the Chase Bliss Audio Tonal Recall, and this is really exciting. This is an analog Bucket Brigade style with actual Bucket Brigade chips in analog delay. Really cool, and it's got that Chase Bliss quality through and through, basically, in terms of the construction, the sound quality, the features. It's incredible. Okay, so you can see the pedal on the floor here. Looks exactly like all the other pedals in the range. This really cool design that he's been using for a while now. Finished in this nice silver color with these blue metallic knobs. What we've got here, there's obviously the dip switches on the back as you'll normally find, but we've got a tone, which also functions as a ramp, which we'll get into later, mix, the modulation rate and depth, and then a waveform selector for square, sine and triangle waves, and then we've got a regeneration or feedback dial, and then the time dial, and then we've got a tap tempo function which is linked to the tap tempo button here to select different subdivisions via the tap, and then we've got this dial, or this button here, which selects between S, L and B. Now S, L and B, we've got a single Bucket Brigade chip, two Bucket Brigade chips in L mode, and then B basically is combining those two Bucket Brigade chips together in a way that gives you kind of like a washy, reverby kind of sound from your delays, which is kind of cool as well, like a third sound. And then finally we've got a bypass switch, obviously true bypass as well, and then we've got our preset switch, which you'll find on all Chase Bliss Audio, so you can store a couple of presets. Ins and outs are good as well, so we've got a standard input, then we've got the expression and control voltage input, which allows you to control like the rate of the waveform, and then we've got the tap and MIDI function here, this output, which basically allows you to put an external tap tempo pedal in there, or you can use Chase Bliss Audio MIDI connection kits on there as well if you want to control various parameters via MIDI. And remember, all of this functionality is built into this analog pedal. This is not a digital pedal, but it's a digital brain controlling this great sounding analog pedal. So, my clean tone is coming from this Roland Blues Cube mic'd up with an SM57. And then I'm using this guitar. This is a Music Man Cutlass guitar on the position 4, basically, so in between the neck and mid position. My clean tone sounds like this. Okay, engage the pedal. I'm using exactly the same sound I used in the intro sequence as well, so you can see where the controls are. The top row are just around 12 o'clock, a little bit of modulation, and then we've got quite a long delay, followed by quite a lot of feedback as well, and we get this. Beautiful analog delays, full of warmth, velvety smooth, really nice. Now the maximum delay time on this pedal is 550 milliseconds, and that's down to the fact that we're using Bucket Brigade chips here. They don't have a huge amount of delay built into them. So let's go through each of the controls here, and then finally what we'll do is we'll flip the unit up and show you the dip switches as well, but we'll start with the controls on the front. So the tone control allows you to obviously change the tone from super dark. There you can hear, if I bring up the the mix and the regeneration, you'll hear this a little bit better. Really dark sound. Really beautiful. Just a lovely velvety wash behind, basically. So that's darker than you'll find in your average analog chorus. Now, if I go about halfway up, which is roughly where we were before, now these stand out in the mix more. Still very analog sounding, nice and lush and dark and smooth, but if we go all the way up, this is a little brighter than you'll find with your average analog delay. So if you want analog sounds but you want them to be a little bit brighter, you can achieve that here. So because these are brighter, let's bring the regeneration and the mix down a little bit, and you get this. So almost the same as the original signal. You get that beautiful kind of slightly fluffy nature to it as well, which is really nice. Really pretty. Now if we bring the delay time down, which you can do with the tap tempo or you can do here, now we get check out that beautiful modulation as well. We'll get into the modulation section in a second. So pretty, really lush sounds. Okay, so the time, again, all the way up to 550 milliseconds, which is long enough for an analog delay. And again, you get that lovely kind of bucket brigade, kind of desaturated kind of sound, that kind of like slightly fluffy kind of nature to the end of the sound. It's really pretty. So pretty, so nice. Okay, now the regeneration. This unit will go fully into, if we bring the regeneration up, into self-oscillating style sounds. Now obviously this is going to overload the amp, so I'm going to turn this down pretty quickly, but we get this. So you can hear there, that will work really nicely if you want those kind of crazy sounds, and you could play with the time control. So if I do that again, if we bring that up, and then play with the actual time. So if you want all those crazy sounds, you can do those, obviously, because it's an analog pedal. That's all available to you. So if we go to the modulation section now, we can get some crazy sounds here or some beautiful sounds, whatever you desire, basically. If we start with the sine wave, so you can see there that little switch is just toggled onto the sine wave mode. Okay, let's bring the rate and depth a little bit higher. In fact, let's drop the rate and bring the depth up. So we get this. Really lush analog sounding chorus effects from those delays. And it's beautiful to have the original signal separated from those delays so that you get the chorusing only on the delays. I love that sound. So pretty. Now, if we change to the square wave, do the same thing. You can hear there's more movement there because of the nature of the flat nature of the square wave. Now that starts to get cool if we bring the depth down and bring the rate higher. Here we've got a lot more movement in our delays now. Very pretty indeed. And then if we go to the triangle wave, it sort of sits in between those two. Really lush. Now if we bring the rate higher, bring the depth down further, we can get some really cool crazy sound. can see that that modulation section is going to give you a lot of options basically, and you can do things like you can bring the rate down, bring the depth up, and you start to get really crazy, really gorgeous kind of modulations. Hard to beat, really, really beautiful. Okay, so obviously we've got the tap tempo function as well. So that works nicely. Okay, and then the final thing to show you on the front panel here, we've obviously got the presets, but it's this button as well. So if we go to S, now we've got a single bucket brigade chip engaged, which is great for those kind of slap back, old school kind of vintage sounds. So if we bring the regeneration down, just get that kind of one delay going. Really nice. So again, a little bit more versatile in that respect, and superb sounds, really true analog sounds. Okay, now if we go to the L, again we're back to 2 bucket brigade chips on a longer sound basically. So that's where we can get up to our maximum of 550 milliseconds. And then finally, if we go to B, the sound changes slightly. We get a more reverby kind of washy sound. Really cool. So, tons and tons of features. What we'll do now is we'll flip the pedal up and have a look at the dip switches and just show you what those do. And what I'm going to do, unlike previous Chase Bliss audio demos, the manuals now, he's really updated these. Let me just grab this for you guys. These look a lot nicer than they used to look. These used to be kind of a little bit hard to read. This is a lot nicer now, and even cooler, tons and tons of suggested settings. Now, the bottom row of settings utilise those dip switches, so I'm going to utilise some of these sounds to show you what's happening with the dip switches. So we'll do that now. Okay, so here's the dip switches. As you can see, we've got dip switches for the mix, the rate, the time, the regen, the depth, bounce, and then we've got trails and momentary bypass. And then on the other side, we've got these basically determine whether the modulation side, any of these parameters can be modulated using this rate control basically. And this section controls whether the mix rate, time, regeneration or depth are bouncing, are they rising or falling when you hit the actual bypass pedal. So they'll either rise to the parameter, or well, the setting of the parameter that you're using, or they'll fall to that parameter from an upper value or a lower value. And then we can change various parameters for the control, which division the tap tempo will use, even or odd subdivisions, and then whether the parameters sweep or whether they just stay static as well. So at the moment, what we've got is that we're modulating the mix, the time, and we're setting those to bounce up and down, okay? And we've got some settings set on the front panel as well. And what's happening is this control here is now controlling basically the time it takes to ramp up to the values for the modulation. So it's a little bit complex, but there's lots of videos about these on Chase Bliss Audio's website that explain them very well. You can watch some of our other demos as well we've done for these pedals. They basically allow you to modulate all of the different parameters on the pedal itself. So this gives us a really crazy sound. So when we do this now, you'll hear each of those parameters modulating really fast. Now as I play with the ramp control, you can hear we're getting different sounds. So some really crazy kind of things can happen here, or you can make them more subtle if you like, just by the ability to modulate each of those parameters. Okay, so if we take out, for instance, the mix, now you'll hear the original signal's gone because the mix is set really high, so it's no longer being modulated. As soon as we put the mix back in, that mix parameter is being modulated. Just push that down, make sure that one's not up. So some really crazy stuff. I mean, that's obviously an extreme example. That's what they call to spook within their example. So let's try one more example. I'll explain what's happening with that, and then, yeah, hopefully you'll get the idea. Okay, so in this example, we've got the rate and the depth are being modulated. And again, they're set to bounce, okay? So what's going to happen here is because those are being modulated, you're going to hear a lot of movement within the delayed signal. So we get this. Now as we play with the ramp control here, that movement gets more crazy. So you can hear there the kind of movement-based effects that you can get. You can get much more unique delay sounds than you would with many, many other pedals. Okay, I hope that's useful, guys. That is the Chase Bliss Audio Tonal Recall pedal. Really high quality pedal, available from Sound Effects Premiere, one of the best sounding analog delays I've ever tried. So check it out on the website or come into the store and check it out and have a demo yourself. My name's Tom Quayle and I will see you next time. Bye, guys.